even have this thread by an Israeli pilot who is explaining the role that Syria played and why now it's easier to attack Iran. So he writes that Israel has now destroyed Syria's air defenses, dropping 1,800 bombs on over 500 targets in a few hours. Okay? That number has actually surpassed 500 now. So Israel has bombed Syria over 500 times in the last 3-4 days. Keep in mind, when Bashar al-Assad was in power, they did a few hundred airstrikes in 10 years. Now they did them in 4 days. So this means, Naftali goes on to say that Israel can use Syria's airspace more freely, meaning violate it, turning Syria into a springboard for attacking Iran, which is exactly what they would do with Lebanon's airspace, actually. When they would bomb Syria, they would go through Lebanon to reach the targets without any interference, to get as close as possible in a safe manner, and then they would cut into Syria and go that way. So he continues here and says that Syria used to possess the most densely concentrated array of air defense batteries in the world. Dozens of Russian-made SA-17s, 22s, 6s, 8s, and 5s, 5 batteries launched hundreds of missiles at Israeli fighter jets over the past decade, downing an Israeli F-16 in 2018. Generations of Israeli fighter pilots were raised memorizing the range of Syrian SA-5 missiles and studying the vulnerabilities of the MiG-29. So MiGs are of course, Russian Soviet planes. And their weakness was that they had weak radar and a small fuel tank. But no longer. The nemesis of the Israeli Air Force has been completely destroyed. So do you see, again, the vocabulary being used? This is from an Israeli. An Israeli is saying that Syria had the most densely packed array of anti-aircraft in the Middle East. And who's the Israeli Air Force's nemesis? The Syrian MiG-29. Now, obviously, Syria's military was not in a state, especially after this war, after it was already hollowed out, of beating Israel one-on-one. Israel has always had that support from NATO, from the West, in terms of logistical supply, intelligence, and so on. But nevertheless, when the Israelis are admitting how much of a, I don't want to say the word threat because they're the ones bombing Syria, they're the threat, but of how much of a challenge and how much of an obstacle Syria's defenses and military gear posed, it says a lot, right? It had deterrence. It did have deterrence. Even though I was always complaining that, look how much they're bombing Syria, I would always point this out and criticize them for not doing enough. But even then, you compare that to now, and you can see actually they were doing as best as they could, I suppose. Once again, Israel is being armed by Germany, by the UK, by the US. It has unlimited amounts of ammunition and resources. So we have to take that into consideration. He goes on to say that even Russia's advanced S-300 batteries used by Iran were destroyed by the Israeli Air Force earlier this year. While Iran still likely possesses dozens of advanced air defense systems, the balance of power in the Middle East has shifted. It has shifted. Now, S-300s are not the latest generation of surface-to-air missiles produced by the Russians. They actually have S-400s, but I don't recall them having any. Well, I don't recall them having many of them, if any at all, in Syria, and certainly they didn't give them to Syria. I think they tried transferring some S-300s, but the models that he was talking about before, one of them reached Dimona, for example. We're talking about an SA-200, which is from the Cold War. So Syria had a lot of Cold War era Soviet gear that was still functional and still useful. Dimona is the nuclear reactor that the Israelis build their nuclear weapons at. It's their prime nuclear facility, and they were bombing Syria about 2 years ago, and Syria fired a surface-to-air missile. It was errant to the point that it actually followed that jet for a few hundred kilometers before landing roughly 30, 40 kilometers away from Dimona. So it could have caused a massive nuclear issue, and it would have been, entirely the Israelis' fault. No one invited them to bomb Syria, right? But Syria is just defending its airspace. But it just goes to show you that these things are still effective, even though they weren't the latest gear. The way that they were, the amount of batteries and the way that they were positioned was still effective to a large extent. So here we've got a military correspondent for the Times of Israel. Look what he says. It says, after over a decade of evading air defenses over the skies of Syria during a campaign against Iran's supply of weapons to Hezbollah, the Israeli Air Force says it has achieved total air superiority in the area. An Israeli bombing campaign earlier this week across Syria aimed at taking out advanced weaponry that can fall into the hands of hostile elements following the collapse of the Bashar al-Assad regime also destroyed the vast majority of the air defenses in the country. So you see that they're contradicting themselves, because one minute they say that they're destroying weapons that are going to be transferred, and then they say they're destroying weapons that could fall into the wrong hands. But how can we're talking about surface-to-air missiles, about air defense? Why? I mean, how could they fall into the wrong hands exactly? They're not offensive weapons; they're defensive weapons, aren't they? They're even saying it in the name. They're air defense weapons. So they would only be a problem if you're attacking Syria. So they're kind of admitting in their own sentence that they're a problem because Israel always likes to bomb Syria, right? So that was a funny thing I wanted to point out here. But just look at what he's saying. He's saying that according to the military, the Israeli Air Force destroyed 86% of air defenses across Syria. So that's a total of 107 separate air defense components and 47 radars. It's a radar. I mean, how can a radar fall into the wrong hands? It's just, it's a radar. That's it. And, it goes to show you again that they want to keep Syria defenseless. It's got nothing to do with Bashar al-Assad. Whoever takes over Syria, or let me rephrase that, the Syrian people, right? They love to use that phrase, the Ukrainian people, the Syrian people, every time they want to make some, pontificating statement. But seriously, I'm not doing it sarcastically. Syria, the Syrian people need defenses, do they not? Right? Look at what Israel does in the name of its security, right? It justifies everything. So, well, guess what? Syria also wants security, and it needs it as a matter of fact, because it keeps getting attacked by Israel. They've taken that security away, and these jihadists, these Al-Qaeda henchmen, head choppers that had just taken over Damascus, allowed them to do it. So, at best, they're incompetent, and at worst, and you should assume the worst, they conspired with Israel to do that. But thank God they finally issued a rebuke at the United Nations via the Syrian ambassador to the permanent mission there. So all of the diplomats in the Syrian diplomatic corps have been told to remain at their posts. They have not been replaced or reappointed yet, or called back, called back home. But regardless, this so-called new government, the transitional government, told the Syrian ambassador to the UN in New York to rebuke the Israelis after several days of Israel stealing land, destroying every defense and weapon imaginable that Syria possesses, ships, tanks, ammunition dumps, whatever. And like the only thing they did is just, say something please at the UN after 5 days. So they have successfully transformed Syria into a hollowed out Western Israeli puppet regime that can't stand up for itself. Well done. Well done. And here you can see the result. I mean, just look at these tanks, all of these helicopters. I mean, all of it just on the air, still on the airfield and in the bases, turned to rubble, to ash. So it clearly didn't pose a threat to anyone. It just, they just destroyed it for the sake of destroying it because they could. And you remember how many times they bombed Damascus airport. Look, all I mean, I showed you this photograph actually, but this one's more zoomed out now. I mean, it's insane. They destroyed Damascus airport, Aleppo airport several times. I don't know why this bloody picture keeps coming up. I'm trying to show you different ones. Yeah, so this one was released by the Israelis themselves, and they're just showing off their footage, just like they show off their genocide.
אנחנו נכנסים לביצוע סוכות 24. אני מוכן? 2, 3.
So they love releasing footage, and you can see all of this stuff is on the runway. It's on the ground. It's not flying. It's not manned. It's not being used in any capacity. They just want to make sure that Syria is a neutered, eunuch, impotent, spineless, defanged, declawed, whatever, hollowed out state. That's it. They don't want any capacity left for Syria to defend itself. Outrageous, truly outrageous. I mean, over 500 airstrikes. Madness. And the worst part is, look what they've taken, this, Mount Haramon. Look at that. Do you see what we're talking about? When you're up there, you can see all over Lebanon, okay? It's the highest peak in Syria, and it's called Jabal al-Sheikh because it looks like, the head of a sheikh, the snow, basically. But it's I can't overstate how strategic and how important this place is. And they took it without a fight. That is the most pathetic part of all this. And this is what Jolani says. Oh, we're not ready to fight. See that? People are exhausted from war. Changing the subject, deflecting, all of this, and I found an accurate graphic of what's going on. This is what Netanyahu is doing to the new government, basically. And I mean, it's not really the new government, is it? He's doing it to all of Syria. That's really what the truth is. That's what the truth. That's what's really happening. And to make matters worse, they're already ethnically cleansing the southern parts of Syria. For example, these villages that are in the surrounding areas of Dar'a, they're telling people to evacuate. They're telling them to go, just like they do with Gaza, or with Lebanon. Oh, this is, you have to go to a safe zone now. Please leave. You're about to die in 2 minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right? And then they will go so either they will get the Druze, they will make, not Jews, Druze, right? So like in Majd al-Shams, they will get the Druze in Sweda to basically secede and become their own country, which partitions Syria and accomplishes the same goal of weakening Syria, and then maybe make a Kurdish, Kurdistan east of the Euphrates, so all of the oil and the crops are gone, and then you have Al-Qaeda controlling the middle part of Syria, and then they've done a Sykes-Picot 2.0 or 3.0 at this point, right? And here you can see them. You can see them coming in, okay, these are the Israelis, and performing these Talmudic rituals on Syrian soil, and they're doing this next to Haramon, next to Jabal al-Sheikh, and basically, sanctifying the ground before they colonize it, before they steal it. You get the idea. And look how the Syrian, the Free Syrian Army, Al-Qaeda, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, who knows what the hell to call them anymore. Look how they talk about all of this. They're asked by the Times of Israel, are you in contact with Israeli officials? And then basically the rebels, the terrorists didn't say anything, but Israel confirmed that they are. And then here they said to the Times of Israel, so the fact they're talking to an Israeli outlet already is scandalous, right? They said, we are thankful to Israel for its strikes in Lebanon and in Syria, okay? And we hope that after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, Israel will plant a rose in the Syrian garden and will support the Syrian people. I mean, I'm sorry, man. No amount of backside kissing and tongue bathing is going to make the Israelis come and plant roses. You're delusional. You're truly delusional. This is delusional. And going back to the on the topic of media, today Israeli media were broadcasting from inside of Damascus. Did you hear me correctly? Israeli media were broadcasting from inside the Syrian capital in broad daylight today. Look at this. This is I-24, Israeli channel in Syria, in Damascus.
The thing that is very incredible that all people are very, very happy. Not in any time of the year, people are happy. For me, it's a very heart beating to be in this area and see all the people who are happy. I have been waiting for a moment like this for all of my life. Most of people's problems in Syria is Bashar al-Assad, nothing else.
I'm free. This is how I feel. I'm free. I'm literally free now. Bashar al-Assad is now out of Syria and will never come. And I want him dead, like every single Syrian in this world. Because we have suffered, and this man must die. Because he went to kill us here in Syria. Every single man in Syria have suffered his rage. So we need him killed right away. Please let this message...
Actually, it's perfect for Israeli television, you know? Not like, oh, we should have a trial and hold this man accountable for his crimes because this is a new day in Syria. It's a democratic country. No. It's like, let's execute him. When do we begin the hangings? It's so perfect for Israeli TV, you know, the level of deranged thinking. Yeah, well done. Well done, really. Just, it's really makes you proud, you know? Really reflects so well on Syrians right now. Just...
have suffered his rage. So we need him killed right away. Please let this message be with all the Syrian people in here. Let the Syrian live, please.
What's next for Syria? What happens next?
Syria is going to be a great nation. We hope that, and we need it to be. We need the democracy. Let the American be with us.
Yeah, you know, first we do the executions, then we have the democracy. And I love how he's yelling, I'm free, and he's holding up a flag of when Syria was a French mandate. Yes, that's a colonial flag, which makes this whole thing all the more humiliating. It's like they couldn't even pick a good flag. They went and chose the flag of the so-called First Syrian Republic. You need to understand something. After World War I, when France and Britain carved up the Middle East, they couldn't give people independence because that would be, you know, that would be way too democratic. Can't have that. So, you know, they got these mandates through the failed League of Nations to set up protectorates, you know. So basically, like, it's a budding democracy. It's like, you know, we have to police the savages out, boy. We can't have them running their own show. No, that would be far too egregious right now. The white man has to come in and teach these savages how things are done, quite frankly. So that's what France and Britain did. They set up protectorates. It's a colony. It's a colony. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. It's a colony, and that's the flag. So well done. You're so free. You have a French flag in your hand. So you have to love the irony. It's so funny. It's really it's like someone in handcuffs saying, "I just broke out of jail." Yeah, the stupidity is really something to behold. And talking to an Israeli channel. You know, it's like I think one of you said it in the comments, it's like a ritual of humiliation for the Israelis. Please understand this. Please, even if you support the whole revolution, the so-called revolution, even if you, please listen to what I'm telling you. This is a piece of friendly advice. When an Israeli channel shows up and films you like this, they are not doing it because they give a toss about you having democracy or so-called democracy. They are doing it as a humiliation ritual. It's bullying. They are bombing Syria while Israeli jets are bombing Syria while Israeli camera crews film you celebrating, you know, with the bombs in the background. It's like, if that doesn't make you grasp it, nothing will. I can't help you. You know, I'd rather talk to a wall. As a matter of fact, I am. No, but seriously, it's like you're just never going to get it. Then Israel is at war with Syria and has been at war with Syria for 50 years. For 50 years, whether you like it or not. whether you like it or not. You know, you can hate Bashar al-Assad and you can, want democracy and all these lovely things. Sorry, Israel doesn't care. Israel is at war with Syria. And as a matter of fact, when Israel goes and backs the opposition, well, it's no longer a revolution, is it? It's a hostile takeover. It's a hostile takeover. And when that opposition takes power, the occupation expands. Israel is occupying Syria. This is a fact. There's no way around that. Israel is at war with Syria. This is a fact. And when Israel is celebrating with you as you take power, you should really reflect on your life choices and start asking yourself, why is Netanyahu clapping at the same time? Why is Erdogan happy? Why is America happy? You should really start worrying. You should really, this should be a wake-up moment. Unfortunately, some people just won't get it. Well, it's too late. There's no more military. Syria is defenseless. Syria has lost one of the most important not outposts, but just simply military posts that it has. It's gone. I mean, this land, we're never getting it back. When the Golan Heights, just what they had already taken in '67, was a bloody challenge. And now they've taken even more of it, and they're still going to take more of it. They're like 16 kilometers from Damascus now. Let me explain something to you. Do you know why the Israelis haven't advanced all the way? Because they already control Damascus. They don't need to go to Damascus proper. They don't actually need to be, in the Umayyad Mosque or in the Su'al Hamidiyeh. They already run Damascus now. Are you starting to get what I'm telling you? The people, the head-chopping jihadists, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Jolani, work for Israel. They're in Damascus already. It's just the ones in IDF uniforms are 16 kilometers from Damascus. That's the only difference. Get it? And this is what we lost, yeah? This is just look at this, okay? This map. If you have Mount Haramoun, you've got Jabal al-Sheikh, this spot, look at what that offers you. The visual line of sight, okay, is in red, and then the radio, so the sphere of, the radius of the radio is in green, okay? So it almost reaches Cyprus, basically. It effectively does reach Cyprus. Do you understand what a strategic disaster it is to have lost this area? Even if Israel didn't destroy a single Syrian jet, even if, Syria was now the perfect democracy, the quintessential democracy on planet Earth, losing this spot on Mount Haramoun, disaster. Absolute disaster. You can oversee the whole bloody Levant from that place. And the Israelis know what they just captured, and they are bloody dancing. They're literally dancing at our funerals. Look at them. And they're posting, this one over here is posting about how, gonna go skiing. Mount Haramoun is ours, accept it. Just, land theft. That's what Zionists do best. And some Syrians are, punch drunk and high on the hubris. What can I say? You can't have a future without sovereignty. Sovereignty is the basis for everything, okay? It's the foundation on which you build everything. Your economy, your foreign policy, your domestic policy, your system of governance, all of it depends on sovereignty. You don't have sovereignty, you have nothing. You don't, even if you are under a dictatorship, you don't even own that dictatorship. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Even if you're occupied, the occupation doesn't belong to you. That's how oppressed you are without sovereignty. You have nothing. You own and will have nothing. And some people are willing to buy a fake illusion of democracy with their sovereignty. And frankly, those people are so stupid. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Maybe we don't deserve it. Which pains me to say that. Really does. There will be future generations cursing the minute that this crap happened, because they will understand. They will have the hindsight of grasping what it is that Syrians today think was liberation. Not to mention the rest of the region and the rest of the global south.
Again, YouTube demonetized my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. Telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it, because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.